Are you ready to scale and outsource your business?
Okay, let's go.
Welcome to the Outsourcing and Scaling Show. I'm your host, Nathan Hirsch, a show where we talk about everything Amazon, Shopify, e-commerce, and digital marketing. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Outsourcing and Scaling Show. I'm here with Seth Greene. Seth, how you doing today?
I am fantastic. Thanks so much for having me. I am super excited to be here and share with your tribe.
Well, we're excited to have you. I know you've had me on your podcast. For those of you that don't know, Seth is the nation's foremost authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing. He's a co-host of the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington, who a lot of people know from Shark Tank, which has just been named one of the top 10 podcasts to listen to in 2019 by NASDAQ. He's a founder of the direct response marketing firm marketingdominationllc.com, and he's a 7-time best-selling author who's been interviewed on NBC, CBS, Forbes, Entrepreneur, CBS Money Watch, and many more. Seth, we're honored to have you, and we're going to talk about all of that. But first, let's take a gigantic step back. Talk to me what you were like growing up. Were you a rebel? Were you a straight-A student? Walk us through that.
Sure. Before I started marketdominationllc.com, yes. So I was... it depends on how far back you want to go. I would say I was kind of a brat until I was diagnosed with was hospitalized for a serious illness when I was about 16, and literally grew up overnight and realized, was told that, my stress and my emotions had a great deal to play into my physical symptoms, and realized I had to kind of stop being a jerk and being self-centered and realized I had to get out of my own head and get my emotions under control and kind of mature a little bit and kind of find out. I did a lot of soul searching. I was in the hospital for a couple months. So a lot of meetings with my rabbi, a lot of soul searching about why this happened, how this happened, and kind of trying to figure out where my place was in the world and how I could serve my purpose and feel better.
Wow, that's incredible. I think a lot of people listening.
It's funny. No one's ever. I've done over 300 interviews. No one's ever. I've never talked about that.
Well, explain this, because I think a lot of people, when they hear, okay, someone's like getting really stressed out and that's leading to health issues, the last thing they think is, oh, that person should go be an entrepreneur. I mean, being an entrepreneur is full of stress. I mean, if you want to avoid stress, you go become a teacher or something. So what was your mindset there, and why did you want to become an entrepreneur after going through that?
That's a great question. So you're absolutely right. You don't think being an entrepreneur is a solution to stress. It's funny, the other profession, I had made a list of like the 6 things I wanted to do when I grew up. Entrepreneur was on there, author was on there, actor, which was even more stressful, and a couple others. And I actually went to undergrad. I went to Syracuse University for a degree in acting. That was what I was going to do when I was 18, which obviously is an even bigger roller coaster than being an entrepreneur, because at least there you have some control. You can actually go sell something and make some money. Whereas as an actor, you just got to audition all the time and hope you find something that is your lucky break. So I would say, how did the journey to entrepreneur come about? I did after college, when I decided I didn't want to be an actor anymore and I didn't want that stress. I went to work for a Fortune 500 company as a college financial planner. So I had that safety net, even though it was a commission-based job. And then after a number of years of learning direct response marketing and getting really good at it, and I got tired of fighting with the compliance department at the giant company that was paranoid and thought their job was to say no. So I left and started my own company, first in financial services, to do the type of marketing I was learning from Dan Kennedy. And that got me, I became one of the top 30 financial advisors in the country for opening new accounts because the marketing worked so well. And then financial advisors started finding me saying, how do I do that? So I started a marketing company, marketdominationllc.com 12 years ago, to start off teaching financial advisors how to do what I did. And then it's since grown to, 62 different industries, thousands of clients, every time zone on the planet, where we help other business owners and entrepreneurs grow their companies.
So talk to me about year one of being an entrepreneur, because I feel like that's the make and break year. There's a lot of things that come up that you don't expect. You're learning how to be responsible for yourself and all the responsibilities there. How did that first year go for you, and what did you learn?
That's an awesome question. First year, kind of rocky. So I had borrowed the money. So when I left the Fortune 500 company, I had recruiting offers from other Fortune 500 financial services companies based on my success, and they were willing to throw signing bonuses at me and throw a significant amount of money to incentivize me to come work there. And instead, I went and started my own firm. So I gave up a multiple six-figure signing bonus and had to go into debt. I had to borrow the money to launch my own company. So a lot of pressure. My wife quit her. We had gotten married, bought our first house, had our first baby, and she quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom that year. So I was the sole breadwinner. So lots of pressure, which is never fun. And first couple of months, so I was trying to get my office set up, learn the new companies, learn the new paperwork, learn the new systems for managing money. And then most importantly, trying to get all my clients, my couple hundred clients from the Fortune 500 company to come with me. And of course, the Fortune 500 company had an office full of people calling them saying, no, Seth left, stay with us. And me saying, no, come with me. And I was fortunate in that I had great relationships with them, and a large percentage of them did come with me. The problem was they didn't have any urgency. So I went independent in October of 2007, right before the bubble burst. And so what I wasn't thinking about was I was running into the holidays. So I was sending out packages of paperwork of transfer forms, and people were like, oh, Thanksgiving's coming up, and I'll do it then. I'll do it after that. No, I got to go on vacation, and it's the holidays, and I'll do it after that. I'll do it after the first of the year. I'm not in a rush. And I was in a rush because unless they moved over, I didn't get paid because I had no revenue. So I was going crazy. Thankfully had borrowed the money to stay afloat, going, why don't they do it yesterday? I need the money yesterday, but they weren't ready to move when I was ready to have them move.
Very interesting. So I know you've hired a lot of people. I know you use the Free Up platform as well. Talk to me about your first hire. How did that go? And what was that experience like?
First hire should have been much sooner. I wish I had started hiring sooner. My first hire was so funny. I had a number of interns come work for me from the local colleges, and some of them would go to work part-time. My first full-time hire, still with us to this day. And my mother is actually responsible for that. She was at our synagogue, and she was talking to a gentleman from Temple and said, hey, aren't you in marketing? And the guy said, yeah, well, my son does some marketing. That's what I get. Marketer of the Year from Dan Kennedy nominee 3 years in a row. I get some marketing. So my mother still doesn't understand everything we do. And she said, well, you should go talk to my son. So he came in and talked to me. We hit it off. I hired him first for a copywriting project, freelance, to see how he did, and if he has multiple TV Emmy awards for TV writing. So I wanted to see if that could translate, if I could turn him to the dark side of direct response marketing, which worked. And he's been with us ever since, and he's employee number 1.
Wow.
And he since has grown to not just be our number 1 copywriter, but he's now president of our entire publishing division.
That's crazy. Any horror stories? Any bad?
Oh God, yes.
That stand out that you can share with the audience?
Absolutely. My 2 most recent ones. I got a phone call from jail. That's never happened before. And literally, it was my employee's mother crying, going, he was in a car accident. He got arrested. Turns out he was high and caused the car accident. And turns out he's addicted to painkillers that nobody knew about. And he's going straight from jail to court-ordered rehab. And we had no idea he was hooked on drugs. And when we called all of the clients he was responsible for, we found out that he hadn't been doing what he was supposed to be doing for months. And at the time, I didn't really have a management system. It was all just me walking around, talking to my team, asking them questions, trying to keep it all straight in my head. So we found out he hadn't been doing much work because he'd been high for months and lying about it. So I had to beg all of his clients to forgive us, give us patience. I personally did all the work he was supposed to do to catch up, offered refund checks. Most of my clients were heroically understanding. We were able to catch up. Now we have drug testing as a part of working here. Now we have that inspired us to invent a management system that literally tells each team member what to do every day and make sure they do it without me having to micromanage the process. So it inspired something that is actually turned into a separate service company. So there was a silver lining. And then most recently, we had a team member who every week in her staff meeting would report some great results on what she was doing. And then she was a guest booker for our podcasts. And I started getting clients going, hey, I can't get a hold of that person she booked me for. And I started checking and noticing, hey, I called that company and they said this person's been retired for 5 years, but you reported them as saying yes to being a guest. So it turned out, I said, what's going on? And after 4 or 5 attempts to get the truth out of her, it turned out she wasn't doing the work. She was getting lousy results on the stuff she did do. And she felt bad. So she lied in our staff meetings and said she did it. So we let her go.
So I know you use a combination of, you have a virtual assistant in the Philippines, you've got a freelance you got from FreeUp, you obviously have your internal team, and they're in an office, right?
Yes, we have offices in 6 states and 3 countries, including your guys through FreeUp. So we're up to now 33 team members. Some are physical here in our offices here. Some are in our offices in other states. US and Canada are physical, and then Philippines is virtual. And we use FreeUp, as you know, a great deal.
So how do you balance that? Because I think that's where a lot of people struggle. They either go entirely in-house, they go entirely remote, and then you find the people that are doing both and mixing it together, and it's not easy. What have you found works when you're combining them?
So having a project manager manage those people, check up on those people every day, having a software program that manages the process, so I can literally we can see everything, the project manager and myself can see everything that's getting done, and when it's not getting done, find out why before we end up 3 months into issues and have clients screaming at us.
Makes sense. So you're on a podcast, your co-host is Kevin Harrington. I'm assuming you didn't just call Kevin up one day and say, hey, do you want to do a podcast with me? Is there a story behind that? How do you end up working with Kevin?
I'll try and tell the short version of the story. I kidnapped Kevin. I met him. He spoke at an entrepreneurs organization event. I waited in line, and instead of asking for a picture or an autograph, I said, Mr. Harrington, I'm here to take you to the airport. He said, oh, I'm going to get a cab, because this was before Uber. And I said, no, I insist. I'm taking you to the airport. So he was nice and said yes. And I drove slowly to the airport because it's Buffalo and I knew where it was. And I had 20, 30 minutes to pitch him on, I met him before we were podcasting. So I pitched him on our service that optimizes traffic and conversion for e-commerce websites and marketing funnels. So we pointed out 12 holes in the asseenontv.com funnel. He said, okay, you got my attention, gave me his information. I sent him a shock and awe box, which is a whole separate conversation. He said, yes, that started a consulting relationship with As Seen on TV before he sold it, and then a friendship. And then he started hiring us to market some of his portfolio companies from Shark Tank and other venture capital deals. That worked really well. I started speaking at a lot of the same events he was. And then about 2 years ago, we were having dinner at an event, and he said, what's the latest thing you're doing that's really sexy beyond the stuff I know about? And I said, we have a program where you reproduce a done-for-you podcast, turn it into a book, make you an authority in your marketplace, and then recruit your top 50 dream affiliates or clients to be on the show and build a relationship with them for you by dripping on them several times a month with direct mail. And he said, oh my God, I want a show. I don't want to do any of the work. I don't want to do any of that work, but that sounds amazing. You already have a show, which I did. And he said, how about I come on, be your co-host. We rebrand it around the both of us, and I'll come on and do 1 episode a week. You can do the rest on your own, and I'll promote the episodes I'm on. And I said, as they say on Shark Tank, I'm in. So that turned our show, which was called Direct Response Marketing, into Sharkpreneur. And the service that does that is at yourdream50, which is what got Kevin excited.
I love it. Talk a little bit about podcasting, because I think a lot of people out there, including me, I just launched a podcast, and they see it as, okay, everyone's creating a podcast, but they don't understand why. What are the opportunities that come up? What opportunities have you had that since you started a podcast that you might not have had if you didn't?
Sure. So the podcast has gotten me paid speaking gigs. It's gotten me media exposure. I've gotten quite a few media interviews because of the show. One of our backdoor secret strategies for getting the press to write about you is interview the reporter you want to write about you on your show. Nice. Because the reporters get no love. The people they write about get all the love. So if you give the reporter an ego stroke and have them on your show, a lot of times at the end of the show, they go, oh my God, tell me about you. And then they say, wow, we should really write about that, which has been very fortunate. We've had that happen many times. So you can get speaking gigs, you can get media attention, you can get clients. We start relationships with people on our show and then have a follow-up system to turn them into clients. You can get referral sources and joint venture partners. We've interviewed a number of people on our show who then will do a webinar swap with us or an email promotion to their tribe about us. And then we get business that way. And then it's a great way to get testimonials, because if you interview a client of yours for 20, 30 minutes, in that 20 to 30 minutes, you can strategically ask questions at not the entire show, but you can get a decent length testimonial out on the show where you say, tell everybody how we met and what problem did you have before you found us and how did we solve it for you, and tell us, and there's your testimonial. And then the rest are regular questions about their business and their life and stuff like that. So there are a lot of different ways to play it. If you do it strategically like we do, we are the antithesis of most podcast production companies that want you to get followers and so you can sell ads. And I don't personally think anybody really wants a second job selling ads on their show. And like 92% of podcasts are never going to get 10,000 listeners an episode so that they can sell ads. I think you should be able to make money from we've literally had clients who made money when they had 9 listeners to their show.
Right. No, I totally agree.
9 people, it works.
I think it opens up a ton of opportunities. Let's talk about marketing. You've been in this space for a while. How have you seen marketing really change over the years, and what's working in 2019?
Sure. So the fundamental principles of why people buy and why they do the things that they do haven't changed. That's the same. The difference is we now have more media outlets to reach them than ever before. So obviously I started the marketdominationllc.com back in 2007. So that's 12 years. So that we now have social media. We didn't have Facebook then. So now we've got Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, everything else. We've got podcasts this is the new ground floor. Every couple of years, they get a new renaissance and a new audience. So I would say now, because of the global proliferation of smartphones and the fact that Apple podcast interface is now embedded in your dashboard on your car, if you get a new car, I would say now is the new ground floor of podcasting. And the audience of the US audience that listens to podcasts is about to triple in the next year. So we should be at 3 billion people in the relatively near future, which is a whole lot of people that are great prospects for your target market. So I think you've got more specific ways to reach people than ever before. There's never been, in my opinion, a more exciting time to be a marketer or a business owner than now.
I love it. So you obviously had a lot of success. You've grown this business, grown your podcast. Are there certain like habits or certain routines that you put yourself through that you found that lead to success for you as an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. I think we've got a number of them. It depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about a morning routine, like you might read in Miracle Morning or the Perfect Day Formula. Yeah, absolutely. I've got one at home when I wake up. And then we've got another one as a staff where we do our staff meeting, we do our affirmations, we do our goals, and we talk about what we're working on that day and that week. So that gets us as a company in the right frame of mind. And that's for people who are physically here, who are in the right time zone. Who can do it with us. And then in terms of marketing and business development, I'm always learning. I literally read a book every single day. So I'm constantly consuming content and trying to stay on the cutting edge and go to events like Traffic and Conversion with you and participate in mastermind groups so that I can keep seeing what's coming next so that we can stay on top of it.
I love it. Now, a lot of people listening, they just heard you say you read one book a day. And I know you and I have talked about this before. Walk people through it. How do you possibly read one book a day?
So I have taken a couple different speed reading courses, and my goal was to be able to read fast and retain it. I'm not one of the guys, I'm not doing the finger down the middle of the page and skipping half of it to flip through it. I'm trying to actually read the entire book and remember it. So I've taken a couple speed reading classes, taken the best of what works from those, along with the fact that I was a fast reader before, and I have a really well-trained memory. So I can generally get through a couple 100-page book in an hour. So whether that's first thing when I get up or if that's after the kids go to bed, I will generally squeeze in an average of one a day. There are times I only make it halfway through, and there are times I can read 2. It just depends on how much quote unquote downtime I've got.
How do you decide what books you want to target next?
That's a good question. Lovely. There's an entire world of marketers running Facebook ads that show up on my newsfeed offering free plus shipping offers on their books. That helps. Number two, I don't know how. I think I'm just on a bunch of people's lists. People send me their books. They just show up in the mail. I don't even request them. I just get books and we'll usually write a review, which is probably why people send me stuff. A lot of times we have a lot of business owners who are authors on the Sharkpreneur show. So their PR people will send books ahead of time and say, hey, would you consider putting this person on your show with a copy of their book? And then of course, there's me going to Amazon and seeing, hey, if you like this, you will also buy that. There are also certain authors I follow who keep writing more books that I always buy anything they put out.
So let's say there's an entrepreneur listening out there. They have a business model. They've had a little bit of success. Marketing is their weakness. For whatever reason, they are just not a good marketer. Is there some overall advice or some stepping stones that you can give them to point them in the right direction, especially stuff that's working now?
Absolutely. So I'd recommend a couple books. I'd recommend .com Secrets and Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. I would recommend No BS Marketing to the Affluent from Dan Kennedy. And then I would say, first thing they've got to figure, the most important factor that affects how well their marketing is going to work is who the target market is. So I would spend half my time in any marketing campaign micro niching down who that target market's going to be before I wrote a word of copy, recorded a video, built a landing page, or worried about a Facebook ad.
Seth, I love it. Thanks so much for coming on. Tell people more about what you're working on now and how people can get a hold of you.
Sure. So the main corporate website is marketdominationllc.com, where you can go and grab a time on my calendar if you want to talk about your business and what's going on. I'm happy to help anybody who's obviously a user of FreeUp or a follower of Nathan's. If you want to learn about our Done For You podcast, Into Book, Into Authority Maker, Into Relationship Builder service, that's at yourdream50.com.
Awesome. We also have a webinar that Seth put on our YouTube channel. We have it on our social media as well. Seth, thanks again for joining us, and I'm excited to see what's next for you in 2019.
Thanks so much. Keep getting me more great people to hire on FreeUp.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. Did you enjoy this content? If so, click like, leave us a comment, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you great content all about hiring.